Hi, my name is Pseudo Sue, and welcome to my channel where we encourage people to be gay and do crimes. Imagine a less dark version of our universe. Jimi Hendrix is president. Weed is a legal right. Corporations don't just think of products as a thing they make and then sell. There is, in addition to that closed model, there's like another way, man, with like us building it together as a community, man. I take away all of the magic other universe nonsense, and that's open source. Open source developers don't think of the thing that they're making as something that they sell. They think of it as a thing they make with you. Everything from Photoshop equivalents to video editing. Wait. Before we go to the puppies, I can actually make this interesting. Parties. Everybody loves a party. I love a party. You love a party. You love a party. Everybody loves a party. What if we could make a party box out of a laptop that you have lying around, or one you find for dirt cheap, or even if you're patient enough, free on Craigslist? No puppies? All right, let's get going. This first step isn't entirely necessary. It just makes the whole thing a little bit nicer, particularly if you have $20 burning a hole in your pocket and you didn't spend anything on the laptop in the first place. Model, with these two screws gone, you can pull the battery out like this. Got the back page on it. Oh, you can already see there is just a pile of dust in here. And again, this isn't something that, like, be able to fix with a Q-tip from the outside. And it's not something that, like, it shows miscare or anything. This is just what happens when an object exists for a certain number of years. But if you want to try and reboot it, it will help to go through and clear out pieces of dust. This is a 500 gig hard disk. So while 500 gigs is a decent amount of storage, that's on the slower side. There's a 5,000 RPM hard drive, which was fairly common a few years ago, but pretty slow by today's standards. And since we got the laptop for free, we figured it would be a reasonable call to spend $20 on a Kingston SSD hard drive. Now, all we need to do is install something on top of it, a new mind to its brain, if you will. We're going to do that by changing operating systems, and we're going to change it specifically to something that doesn't use a lot of resources. Windows 10, for example, this computer. As it's just sitting here, no programs open, so just Windows. Just Windows being Windows and its Windows-y goodness is taking 2.5 gigs of RAM. This computer only has 4. You can install something that doesn't need that much. Codebuntu it is. That probably sounded like I just sneezed or had a mild stroke to plenty of you, but I promise, Codebuntu is an operating system alongside Windows and Mac. It's a version of Linux, or what's called a distro of Linux, which is essentially just somebody took Linux and made it their own. Codebuntu is an easy way to watch movies, to cruise the internet, to do most of what you need to do a computer with, without actually taxing the computer. Okay, so how do we install Linux? The last thing that you're going to need is any USB flash drive you have lying around. Even just a gig will be big enough for the distro that we happen to be using. So what you're going to need is a wonderful free program called UNet Boot In. It is a very simple, relatively easy to use ISO mounting software. Now what that means is Linux distros come on what are called .iso files, which is just a digital disk. You can think of it as a CD without, or a DVD without the DVD actually being there anymore. What UNet Boot In does is put that disk onto something like a flash drive and then tell other computers to not treat this like it's just a flash drive anymore. Treat it like it's a disk drive and it has that disk in it and ready to go. We're going to take this flash drive, we're going to plug it into the USB in our computer, and we're going to run UNet boot. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure the USB drive is pointing to what is on that drive, and you can go down here and click on disk image. It'll give you the type of disk image. We're going to use ISO because that's what we have, and we're going to open Code Ubuntu. And you click OK. So once you have that all set up, you click OK. And don't expect this to move blisteringly fast, especially this is a USB 2.0 drive, which means even if it's connected to a fast computer, which it is, you're going to notice that there will be like long parts of it just taking time writing, and just let it do its thing.
2,000 years later.
The next step is you take that bootable drive and you put it into any of the working USB ports on that computer and you boot it up. You may need to, when you press the power button, press either F2 or delete a bunch of times until you hear a beep, at which point you'll go into what's called the BIOS, which is just the settings for the computer in the background. There will be a setting that says boot order, and one of the options that you're going to need to turn on and move to the top is USB, at which point the computer will start installing. The install process is going to be fairly lengthy, probably about as long as a Windows install is if you've ever done that. Importantly, power. It's not healthy for any of the parts involved if a computer dies mid-operating system installation. Bare minimum, you're going to need to pull out and reformat the hard disk, which is in and of itself a chore. So this is going to need to install for a little while, so I'm just going to use the magic of editing here in 3, 2, 1. And Kodi is installed. You'll notice when moving things over there are separate folders for movies and TV shows, and with laptops like this you'll have a better experience with 720p for reasons I'll get into in a later episode. Now, torrents. Before I get into torrents, I would like to say don't go to any sites you don't trust without a VPN. Now, a VPN is essentially a friend that pretends to be you and goes out and gets information for you and then comes back and spits it out to you, essentially turning you into a crime boss but with digital data. That said, I would never tell you to torrent anything. I would never tell you that torrenting is incredibly easy and something that you can probably do in the background and have most computers not be that affected. And I would never tell you that if you use things like VPNs, you can go to websites like thepiratebay.org, and I would absolutely, it would just be reckless of me to tell you that you could probably find most movies, most games, pretty much anything you want for free out there if you're willing to look. That would be just reckless of me to say. I absolutely should not tell you that you can find... It would be reckless of me to bring up that during a party. It would be great to reach out to your friends and ask, hey, what games did you play as a kid? And then download those on a torrent. That would be terrifyingly bad. Do not do that. Absolutely, I am highly recommending you do not message all of your friends and ask them what games or movies you would like to see in a big party sense, because that would just be like highly irresponsible of me. So an emulator is how you treat a piece of hardware like it's software. And the only important thing that you need to know, emulators are significantly less efficient at doing their job as the actual hardware. So something that is capable of running an SNES game is going to need to be significantly more powerful than just the hardware that an SNES came on. There are limits. Short of good gaming computers, you can't really emulate Xbox 360 or PS3. And short of like a standard decent computer, you're not really going to be emulating GameCube or Nintendo Wii type games, because those still had somewhat decent hardware, and you need to be going well past that. But it's a big, round, hey, I've been working out at the gym, and what do you think of this type but? Hardware has been growing exponentially for a number of years, and especially older things like Atari, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation 2 even at this point, PlayStation, or the original PlayStation, PSP, and a lot of other older hardware, and especially a lot of the mobile platforms are more frequently emulated. So it's really easy to build a computer that can run any Nintendo game that you would want, any Sega game that you would want. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more stuff like this. And remember, Stonewall was a riot.